I'll just close down the window so as I'm not getting feedback, but I just need to wait until it goes live.
So it goes live on your on the favorite UK YouTube.
Yeah. And then it'll be there forevermore unless you,
Okay.
unless you tell me to take it down. Just close down the window so as I'm not getting feedback, but I just need to wait until it goes live.
So it goes live on your.
There we go. So, can you still hear me? Yeah.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, welcome, Sohan. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this morning. I really appreciate it. I think you're our first, no, you're not our first man to interview, but you're certainly our first man of colour. Is that the appropriate term to use?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I think there's loads of terms that are being used, and people of color, black and brown people, ethnic minority, and all of that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not really. I'm okay with how you define and person of color. I guess it fits into the kind of the conversation,
Well,
the language that's being used. So
I think you're our first Englishman. How's that?
yeah, I'll probably yeah, yeah. I'm an Indian man by heart,
Oh,
and
wow.
living in England.
My
Yeah.
son's currently in Bangalore. Um,
Okay.
and a dentist because he's got an impacted wisdom tooth. So he just arrived in Bangalore a couple of days ago, and I'm sweating here because he's got an abscess and it looks quite dangerous. But I'm sure he's in some fantastic dentist, good hands in Bangalore. So
Yeah, he will be looked after. So
yeah.
you needn't worry.
Well, listen, Sohan, thank you again so much for coming to talk to us this morning. Could you just tell us a wee bit about you and about your recovery and about your service as well, please?
Yes, Anne-Marie, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the invitation to come and speak with you and to share my journey and the work that I do and our organization called Back In, which stands for Black and Asian Cultural Identification of Narcotics. It's a peer-led, user-led recovery organization based in Nottingham in England, which we set up in 2003, along with two other founders, Gladstone Hibbert and Manjit Singh Johal. But I go a little bit back into my own kind of journey. I found myself as a young boy, got in with the wrong crowd, you could say. You know, I took a wrong turn in life, and I ended up in having a full blown addiction and all the consequences that come along with that over time, accumulatively, consequences with health, with personal freedom, with family, with work. Also, the consequences of having a position in the community, being seen in a particular light, some from the South Asian community, or Indian community, Sikh community, and you know, being on the wrong side of the street, you could say, and having addictions and moving around with the wrong crowd is, obviously people have concerns, and you get stigmatized, you get labeled. So, I mean, my addiction kind of started really in early on in my life and escalated in my teens when I recognized, I've got a problem and I need help and I need to tell somebody. That was the thing. You couldn't tell anybody because I thought this is part of growing up. All of the feelings of alienation, not fitting in, feeling different, um, not being part of the community or part of the family or part of the human race. I just felt something was wrong. And when I took a substance, it kind of fixed it. I felt all right in my own skin. in my own body, in my own mind, in my own thoughts. I'm kind of reflecting back now, Anne Marie. What was so wrong, so intense that was going on in my thoughts that I needed to sort of escape from it. I had to block it out. I just didn't feel connected with anything. Felt so disconnected, so displaced. But there was a remedy, and I think the addiction was a remedy, the substances that kind of altered my state of being, thinking. And that became like a norm, it was like a great escape. I can escape away from myself, you could say. And, but that had consequences after a while, all the symptoms, all the come down, the ways and means. How do I get more of this? And it costs money. And where does the money come from? And all of the lifestyle choices from that moment onward were kind of determined to
Mhm.
take me into places I would never even, you know, place upon anybody, my worst enemy, but I ended up sort of walking that path. But I'm lucky to be alive, and I'm lucky to be here, to survive what I survived. And, not to go too much into detail, but, ended up in hospitals, health institutions, and other, places of Her Majesty's pleasure, prisons. But I'm here, I survived all that. Lucky to tell the story, and I want to, in my recovery, that was difficult when I come into recovery. When I did my detox as well, it was horrible. And it's like, it might sound a little bit exaggerated, we talk about cold turkey, and I think, well, so I didn't do the cold turkey, I did the cold goose. that's the that's what it felt like, my body withdrawing seemed like forever, and what I was taking was in large volume, large quantities, and I had to suffer to get all of that out of my system, to get well. And I did a supported detox. I tried doing on the street, just didn't work. One day, half a day, an hour, I'd be back on it. It was unbearable. So I needed to be in a medicalized environment. Um,
Yeah, so many of us need that help, don't we? Like just to get the journey
yeah,
started, that medical care. Now thank you so much for giving us a wee visualization there, Sohan, of a wee part of your journey and the despair and some of the, jails, institutions, etc. that our addiction can take us to. So I really appreciate you just outlining that vision. And obviously, in order for you to stay recovered, you've turned that pain into purpose because now you help lots of other people. Is that right? Can you tell me
that's
about
right. Yeah,
that? Tell me about that.
yeah, that's right, Anne Marie. Yeah, I have to do something with that pain. I never worked. There's no history of work and employment. So in recovery, I learned to educate myself, learn about working, volunteering, learn about this sector, drug and alcohol treatment, recovery, rehabilitation. I had to learn all of that because I've been through the processes, I've been through the system. So I know what it's like on the other side. But I'm on this side now, I want to bring a solution. I want to see how I can use my experience to help others, prevent others going down this path, and those who have gone down this path, just to use my learning, my insights, my experience to help them, along their kind of journey. And it is a blessing to be able to do that. But it took me a long time to get well, long time, and I feel I'm well now. I feel I'm really well. Some
Yeah.
days I just feel really, really good. Other days I'm just going through life, and I've got the tools and to work through some of the challenges. Particularly, I think I want to mention around mental health, mental fitness, as they say nowadays. Um, the seasonal depression. I'm still kind of working through issues from the past, and you know but I'm in a good place. I'm in a good, stable place. I'm in an educated place. I'm in a learned place. And, now I'm in a good position to sort of be there stably for others. And I have been there for others. I, I think I'm going back to 1996 now. 1995 was when I came to Nottingham to get well here. I went through my journey here in Nottingham, in England. And 1996, I found a new way to live, and I want to help people. But a lot of my help in the early days was through the fellowship of, the worldwide fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous, where I met a lot of other people, where I got a lot of connection. And I supported a lot of people through the fellowship, people from every community, white community, ethnic minority community. It didn't matter, it didn't matter there at the in NA, we're just people who want to get well, and we want to support each other. And through that support, there was issues around cultural identification, cultural understanding. Like you say, I was the first person of color here, and I felt like I was one of the first persons or first few peoples of color at that time in the fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous in Nottingham. There was few of us, and that was kind of daunting because there's issues that I had that were culturally rooted, issues around like cultural stigma, for example, issues around discrimination, and growing up in the 70s, getting caught up in some of the sort of racial violence that was kind of going through kind of England at that time. As a young lad, I got caught up in that, so there was consequences to that kind of shaped my personality, my identity, into the person I became in the future from that time onwards, and how I viewed certain communities, certain stereotypes or people that I felt attacked by. So there's issues. So I needed a space, and I needed a space where I could talk about those issues. And I think the fellowship wasn't the appropriate place for me to talk about the racial abuse and racial violence and all of that. That was part of my addiction. That part of fueled my addiction and my tendency to act out, to be violent and all of that. I couldn't deal with it in that environment. So kind of coming back, so we had to create our own space. We had to create our own kind of rooms where people of color, people from ethnic minorities, they can have that cultural identification, that cultural empathy, that spiritual connection. They could talk about issues around discrimination, race and all of that without having to explain and without having to feel guilty because we need to speak about it. But in the space that we created for, back into life for recovery space that we created for people from, different cultural backgrounds, we were able to kind of speak about those issues, easily, and get that empathy and understanding from my peers, and not feel guilty after, and kind of grow from that, and also by talking about my own experience, others could talk about their experience. But it's a difficult experience to talk about, the racial bullying, all of the abuse and discrimination I had, others have had. We can't escape it. It does happen. It happened to me, happened to a lot of people I know. So we need spaces, racialized spaces where people can talk about those addiction rooted sort of symptoms, psychological sort of issues. But also, if we don't talk about that, they don't talk about that, it's going to shape their recovery in a way that quality isn't going to be there, I believe. You know what I mean? And we need the tools to recover, psychological tools. We got the steps, we got the counseling, mentoring. There's a range of tools, but also we need some cultural tools as well, cultural spaces, and where people can be understood with some of the issues that they bring. And I think that's what I've been working with. I'm a certified counselor, psychotherapist. I trained back in the late 90s, and in my early years in my recovery, I was a trained sort of psychotherapist. I did a lot of psychotherapy work with people, supported a lot of psychological interventions I did with ethnic minority sort of communities in Nottingham. Mainstream services here, mental health services, IAP services. They didn't kind of have the tools or the expertise to support ethnic minority clients with cultural issues. But I did that for many, many years, Anne-Marie, and I built up a good private practice, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, in when I was treating, clients from these communities, and that with addiction, with mental health, with psychological sort of issues, with cultural issues. I learned a lot, and I think that kind of learning has kind of shaped my kind of perception, my insights into what I'm doing now, a little
Yeah.
bit more at a deeper level.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you've been clean and sober a long, long time, right? Maybe 27, 28 years, is that
Over,
right?
yeah, over a quarter of a century, but I don't talk much about that, Anne-Marie. For me, it's about backing. It's about the mission for backing. It's about the systemic injustice. It's about delivering services to the communities. It's about doing research. It's about putting a spotlight on the things that are wrong with the UK system, a system that's by design is not meant for a multicultural society, and that's a fact, because the numbers show that. If you looked at the UK treatment system and the numbers engaging, one, you will notice there's a large ethnic minority population, and another thing you notice, there doesn't seem to be any drug and alcohol problems in these communities, but the problems are rife. They're through the roof, but the people presenting with them problems are not showing up at our local drug and alcohol treatment services, rehab services. They just ain't showing up because there's nothing on the menu. There's nothing of value to offer. So what happens? They stay in their communities. Untreated trauma, untreated addiction, people getting sicker and sicker, families getting sicker and sicker, and that results in family stress, domestic issues, communication issues, and all of that. Everybody suffers. I really want to speak about this. I really want to bring a spotlight to this. That's what we've been doing for almost the last 30 years. And this drives me more than my private practice. I can have an easy life, Anne-Marie. I mean, I can work 2 or 3 days a week, build up a good client base and take it easy because of what I've been through, and because of what I see, because of the systemic injustice, because of what's missing, the gaps in our services, the underrepresentation, the low quality programs that are not designed to treat and engage people of color. There's an engagement crisis going on in the UK. It's like everyone seems to be deaf. The more we speak about it, the more we raise it, the more we spotlight it through research, through consultations, through various means. We put the information out there. It's like people are not listening, it's going over their heads. Commissioners, local treatment providers, treatment charities. We don't need sympathy. We need action. We need solutions. We need to share that money that comes into treatment services. Some of that money needs to be kind of put into community organizations so we can reach out communities. Because every year the numbers are increasing. Untreated addiction, untreated trauma, it's increasing. It's not getting less. It's a ticking time bomb in the UK. When we hit that peak, you're going to get so many sick people, you're not going to be able to treat them at that same time. You're not going to have the resources. We're warning you. And this is what we've been fighting for, Anne-Marie, of one organization, two organizations, maybe three organizations. That this is a big burden to carry. With people with lived experience, we want to make a difference. We bring solutions to the table. Solutions that are effective, that can be life-saving solutions. But you're not listening. People in policy not listening. People in commissioning not listening. Our local partners, they want us to partner with them, commission treatment services, and they want to give us nothing, and they want to call us partners. What kind of stupidity is that? It's really, really silly. Some of the thinking, you know, they want to ally themselves with an ethnic organization, recovery organization, and tick an effing box. We are not tick box. We are real people. They're real people suffering in our communities, Anne-Marie. And I need to get this off my chest. I need to share this. I'm being honest. I'm being transparent. I'm coming from the heart. People listening, they can hear me. I'm not speaking for me. I'm speaking for those who are suffering and the future generations of people. Future generations of people who are not going to get the support that they need. and they're going to be a consequence. They're going to bring liabilities to this nation. The mental health crisis we're going through, there's a crisis that's coming. We haven't seen anything like it. And the addiction, that fueled by addiction, all the race and all the other stuff that's going on. It's very sensitive times, very volatile times. And we bring a solution. We just want people around the table to sit down and talk. We got a conference coming up next Tuesday, 21 years of recovery, celebrating recovery. What we've done in Nottingham, Anne-Marie, we out there, we support people, we care about people. They're like our families. That's how we see them. You know, we want to give them love, compassion, and support. We want to get them well. We want to get them out that door and stay well, not keep coming around. And I look at our treatment system. I don't see many people getting drug and alcohol free. I don't see many people, becoming, sober and clean. It's like they're caught up in the system. Millions and millions of pounds are going in, and we don't see any evidence of people getting well out there in the communities. I can only talk about Nottingham City. Nottingham, they know where I stand with them. I've been very, very critical. What's happening in Nottingham is happening across the country, across Great Britain. The poor level of engagement, and can I say this as well? And having black and brown workers, that's not cultural competence. They're thinking, oh, if we get black and brown workers, increase the workforce, people will see people that look like them, they will come into the services. That's a very, very low IQ solution. People see that black and brown people working in services. One, most of them are not skilled. They haven't got the empathy, and they haven't got the compassion, and they stigmatize their own communities. But you get a small handful that are really, really solid. They really care. They want to make a difference, but they can't make a difference by themselves. They need teams. They need services. You need organizations. I don't know if some of that makes sense, if it was clear, and but it's on my mind, Anne-Marie, and I thought, let's get that out the way first, right? System needs fixing. I think that our treatment system needs treatment, and our treatment providers need treatment.
Yeah,
that's the way. That's the reality, and that's where we're at the moment, and I'm frustrated, but I'm fiercely passionate. People might say, so I'm talking aggressive, is all of this, all of that, right? Yeah, that's just a passion. It's a fierce passion. Of course, I care. I want things to change for our communities. I want things to change for every communities. I believe from my heart, anyone can recover if they got the tools, if they got the systems and the resources. Anyone on the planet can recover if they got the resources. But the ethnic minority communities in the UK, they got zero, a big zero resources. And any resource they have is tick box, is tokenistic, and it's not acceptable. And we're not having it. We are not having it no more. So what do we need to do? Do we need to create our own? Or do we get support, the taxpayers' money? A large ethnic minority population is a large taxpayer, and that taxpayer money is going into the wrong hands, wrong treatment providers who cannot deliver. They couldn't deliver 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and they certainly ain't delivering now. That's the pattern I've consistently seen, the pattern that we consistently seen. And if we speak about it, we're demonized. Backing is demonized in the UK as an organization, also celebrated because of the good work that we do. Yeah, but also demonized because we challenge the system that is not fit for purpose. It is not fit for purpose. It needs to get fit for purpose. And we need to have conversations, and we need to get that money on the table. And we need to get the resources into the communities so the communities can find their own solutions, find their own interventions, find their own program that's going to work for them, by them. But they need investment. They need that money. It's no good saying to us there's no funding. The funding is already there. It's commissioned funding in mainstream services who cannot deliver. If they're not delivering, take that portion of the funding out and put it into the communities. And for God's sake, if you're going to be employing people, employ people that got life in them, that got passion in them, that want to make a difference, that have a desire to make a difference in the community. Not just ticking your boxes, people coming into your services, robots, machines. We need some real people with passion and fire, because addiction kills. It's destroying our communities. And the workforce has to be so solid, culturally competent, passionate, from the heart, not just strolling into work and strolling back out as if you don't give a damn. Go and work somewhere else. Go and work somewhere else. But that's the reality. These are not my thoughts. What I'm transmitting, sharing, expressing is what I'm picking up, what's being told to me, what's being shared with me again and again and again from professional staff working in the field and service users that do access the services from our communities across the country. They come and speak to me. They ring someone, send me an email. So I'm carrying all of this. It's almost like, I'm like a funnel for their voices. So it's like
Yeah,
a collectively, what I mean? What I'm
yeah,
sharing is it's a shared view, it's a shared reality, it's a shared letdown, it's a shared betrayal, over 20, 30 years of voices of people that I listen to, what I mean? I carry them in here, but I also project them through here.
yeah, good, Sohan. And I thank you for your anger and I thank you for your passion because I think anger is a completely natural response to being ignored, like you said, for 20 or 30 years. I don't think that you can convey what the unfairness, the injustice, and the lack of real access to real treatment. I don't think you can convey that without anger. So I just want to totally validate your feeling of frustration and anger because it's the same for me. I intrinsically knew everything that you just spoke of. I know about it in my heart, I know about it in my head. And like you, people come to me all the time with their experience of exactly what you shared, exactly what we know, and that for whatever reason we've been given this voice, this platform, this ability to try and convey that. So, for a long time I tried to convey it and speak the language of the system. And I learned their language and I tried to talk to them in their language, but they didn't want to listen, Sohan, and they still don't want to listen. So, we can listen to each other and, over time, I think the crisis, like you said, will become so bad that they will have to reach it, they will have to come to people who understand the solution. Um, but I really thank you for your anger and you're safe to express that anger here.
I appreciate that, Anne Marie, and it's a shame that we have to, we're human. We use human language. That's how we communicate, and we have to use their language to communicate with them. So it's like mechanistic, clinical, robotic. We're human beings at the end of the day. People with addictions are human beings, and people working in this field, are human beings, and it's something about language I think is really, really important as well. We it's almost we have to become, I personally have to become inauthentic and trying to use a vocabulary that does not fit my constitution organically, intrinsically. I can only speak the way I speak, in the way that as an organism that wants to express itself. I cannot express it myself through clinical language, through mechanical, political, commissioning language. And that's another thing for us. It's a bloody headache. The commissioning process, the procurement process, the tendering process. You look at the paperwork, you look at the admin, it's like you're gonna have a heart attack. You feel sick. It's like I feel sick in my stomach thinking, there's no way I can't even get past the first page. You need teams, you need expertise. Big charities, big organizations, they have teams and expertise, and they have the resources to do that. That's another thing, and that in itself is like a discrimination. It's like an organization like Backing, for example. A lot of the money that's coming to Nottingham and Marie, and I'm going to keep talking about Nottingham because it's my hometown. That's where I found my life. That's where I started my life. That's where I found recovery. That's where everything good and prosperous in my life is happening. I love Nottingham. Nottingham's my heart. And if things are not right in Nottingham, I will speak about it. I will speak about it. So, what was I saying? Most of the funding we brought into Nottingham it came from out of town. It's a real shame. Again, I want to talk about this. And I know some of the commissioners, Nottingham, will be listening. And I'm just being truthful, frank, and factual. Again, we're doing a lot of life-saving work. There's not been an organization like back in Nottingham ever. People say that it's a blessing. It's a real blessing for people whose lives have been saved. And we're doing a lot of critical work, life-saving work, turning people's lives around that the system here, mainstream system, criminal justice system, fails to do, but we seem to be doing it. And you'd have thought they'll be putting wads of money on the table to support us. No, not even a penny. All the
No.
money comes from our side. And it's a shame. It's a real shame. Something's wrong that needs addressing. There needs to be a systemic review in Nottingham. There's a history of failures, history of neglect, history of betrayal of ethnic minority communities when it comes to treatment and recovery. Most of the people in treatment in Nottingham are here from the ethnic minority communities, Anne-Marie. They're on a script. If they weren't on a script, there'd be zero. That engagement crisis will be through the roof now. So we're doing a lot of good work and we're struggling, sometimes making ends meet. And I'm doing 70, 80 hours. When I started in the early days, I'm still doing that. The team, David, Glaston, everybody is just working around the clock. Not because we have to, our conscience compels us to respond. Whether we got a wage on the table, whether we got a full wage, half a wage, reduced wage, so we can keep the organization going, our conscience compels us to respond, and we will respond. But it's a shame. We got probably one of the best LEROs, lived experience recovery organizations in Great Britain, that's been through trials and tribulations for over 20 years, and we're still here. We're still here. We weathered so many storms. We're still here. And we're based in Nottingham. We celebrate recovery in Nottingham since the 90s. And then another thing, you couldn't say the word recovery back in the 90s, early 2000s. It's like everybody was looking down at you. And if you spoke about abstinence-based recovery, spiritual recovery, faith-based recovery, they thought you was off another planet. This is the treatment provider's treatment system. The demonization we got because of our practices. People come to us, they want to become drug and alcohol free. They don't want to be stabilized. If they are stabilizing, we support them. If they want to detox, we support them. If they want to go to a rehab, we support them. But most of them come here broken and battered, or years of abuse. They want to get well. They want to stay well, and they never want to go back to that lifestyle. Because we're doing that, we're demonized as if to reach a state of abstinence is unachievable. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit into this culture, but let me tell you, it fits into a lot of other cultures. The Hindu communities, Sikh communities, the Muslim communities. Most of them, when they get up here to our organization, they're battered. They want to get better and they want to stay well. They never want to go back to that life. And we're being demonized for that. We've been called a cult because our practices are different, because we want people to get well. And this is what we have to put up with. And this is from the professionals. And we're not in competition with anyone. We're here just to serve our communities. People with the past who turned their lives around, who's got solutions. We are educated, been through business school, been through counseling, mentoring, coaching, everything you can name. We've been through that to ascertain our position. We're not just people who's been there and got a t-shirt. We got a lot more than that. But deeper than that, we got that determination, that passion, that desire to make a difference. You can't buy that, you can't teach that, you can't learn that. And these are the people that are written off once upon a time, that we are supporting. And these are the people that carry that caliber, that character, that strength, and they want to give back. And some of the peers that are new in our service at the moment, Anne-Marie, I can see the potential. I'm thinking, you're going to be so great for our community, but you need the space to get well. You need the resources to get well. You need people around you to help you to get well. And you're going to be an asset to this community. You're going to make a difference that's going to have lasting echoes in the future. But we're written off. I was written off. beyond help. It's on my records. I want to know who put that on my records. And what criteria did that person have to characterize me in such a way that are beyond help? This is what's going on. People are being written off, ending up in hospital, ending up on medication, ending up on antidepressants in our communities, in the Black and brown communities of Great Britain. I think we need to look at that. I was talking about system review in Nottingham, what is actually happening, why these failures, why this denial, why this covering up. Nobody wants to look at what happened last year before that, unmet needs assessments, the poor engagement, but they want to look at today, the here and now, all of this beautiful here and now. Oh, forget about that. Let's look at how we can go forward. No, this here and now that you're looking at, in a few years' time, we're going to be looking back at that. The failings you had a couple of years before that, before that, we're going to be seeing that in a few more years. No, we want to look at that so we can correct that. And I think the other thing that troubles me as well, Anne-Marie, is just the commissioners. Maybe one or two commissioners I met. In 30 years, you can imagine how many commissioners I've probably come across. I can only say maybe two or three that got it. And the rest, they don't get it. They don't get the issues that are going on in these communities. The health teams from public health, when they go out into the communities to do consultations, engagements, it's very superficial intelligence they're picking up. With that intelligence, they are shaping their service specs. They are shaping their sort of treatment system, you could say. Very, very poor. It's a very, very poor attempt, and we need to look at that. We need to have that conversation with the commissioners. A couple of times we called a meeting with the National Commissioners Group. It just hasn't happened, and it does need to happen. I think the commissioners need to be informed at the realities of what's going on in the communities, rather than a tick box. We engaged in these communities, we got that feedback, we got that feedback, we got that feedback. Very superficial. There's no passion, there's no desire, there's no way of talking to the communities. Look at the people they are sending down into the communities to engage in the communities, to give them feedback about their lives. It's not going to happen. If we go into the communities, you're going to get a completely different intelligence, different findings, different type of feedback that will speak to the realities of what's going on and what's needed. But in Nottingham, the Black and brown communities have spoken. They need services like backing. They need services like backing for families, for young people, in mental health, in the criminal justice system, in psychological intervention. Every area where there's a need, where people can get the help, they need that here. But the system, the public health directors, the commissioners, they've got their own plans. Everything seems to be predetermined. The pie is already cut out, the money that's coming amongst themselves. And we need to speak about that. We need to speak about that. We need to have that conversation. We need to have that discussion because these decisions, Anne-Marie, are affecting the population now, and it's going to have ripple effects to affect the future generations. So the commissioners, I think you all need to get on board. You all need to have that conversation, and we all need to have that difficult conversation. It might be upsetting to begin with, but we need to have it. Look at the pain compared to the pain that people are going through in the community right now. Untreated addiction, untreated XYZ, when they should have a right, equal right to services that are responsive, that are effective to meet their needs. They are not. They haven't been. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I know I'm going to keep going around this, but I need to just put the context out there. We have a solution, and we need to meet people around the table to help resource that solution. What we have what I usually hear, Anne-Marie, we've got people coming to backing from Bradford, from London, from Birmingham, from Leeds, from Leicester, from Derby, all around the country to come and get their recovery here because they're not getting in their own cities because there's nothing on offer, there's nothing on the menu. And and one of the things I hear, they want a service like Backing in their city. Birmingham should be having about a dozen services like Backing there. The population and the issues that got going on. Bradford, the same thing. There's only one service like Backing, and that's in Nottingham. But what we do have, Anne-Marie, which I want to focus on, we have expertise. We have a learning that we have accrued over 20 years. And that learning, that knowledge is very impactful in shaping some of the future, perhaps you could say, the programs and uh, and, and engagement strategies for communities that are not getting a good service. And I know there's a lot of compassionate people listening. Well, if we got the skills and the tools, you know, let's put them into work. Let's put them into action. We want to help. I mean, at the moment, we're helping few new peer-led organizations. We're supporting them, with our learning, and but we should be doing that across the country, and we should be commissioned to do that, and we should be doing it off our own back, off our own spare time, evenings and weekends, because we want to make a difference. We want to see that change. We need funding. We need commissioning to do that, and I really believe we can get a team together, we can go across the country, and wherever there are gaps in services, underrepresentation, we can help remedy that. And we'll do it all day long. Yeah. But we need the resources. I mean, how many hours have we got, and how many things can we do in a day, without the resources? I'm a firm believer. I really believe this. I put my recovery on it. If we had the resources, if someone really resources, we can make a difference like that, like never seen before. I feel really strong about that, and I know there's other people like yourself, Anne Marie, other people, within the Lira movement, such a passion. They want to make a difference, and that if we had the resources collectively, the landscape of addiction would change in Great Britain, and recovery would be a celebrated thing, you
Well,
know, across our country.
in America, they have ring-fenced 7% of all addiction treatment funding to come to lived experience recovery organisations. So just for starters, Sohan, I would like to see that. I'd like to see at least 7% of the whole treatment budget come to orgs like yours and mine and, all the other lived experience recovery organisations instead. We're fighting for the crumbs at the table that the big treatment providers maybe throw our way. Like you said, like the odd commissioner who actually gets it might show up. It's all very random. Um, why would you not invest in people who have found the solution, It's just crazy.
I mean, that's a critical question. I think we need to ask, why wouldn't they invest? What's getting in the way? What's the resistance?
What
You
do you
know,
think it is? What do you think it is?
I'll tell you what it is. Consistently, and I'm getting the same messages. It's professional apathy. It's coziness. It's comfortableness. They are comfortable. Everything's cozy in the way things are being done right now. Yeah. The boat's not being rocked. Everybody is self-seeking. Everybody's self-seeking tick boxes being ticked. But to go outside of this, it means there's going to be unrest. It means we're going to have to come out of a comfort zone. It means we're going to have to challenge our indolence, our apathy, action. We are living in times in the law of least effort. Everybody wants something for nothing. Everybody wants to earn a wage and not get out of bed. It's the crazy times we're living in. This is a level of apathy, but in this field, everybody just feeling secure in their own way. They're not bothered about other people. They're not bothered about other small organizations. We live in a very self-seeking, very selfish, very self-indulgent. Long as my needs are met, long as my bills are paid, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So stepping outside of that. And when I say we need to have that difficult conversation, and this is the conversation we need to have. And the amount of people that I speak to say, so that's exactly how I feel. What why should I compromise and jeopardize my well-being for you or your communities when I don't even go to your communities? No, man, I just want my job, come home, clock in and clock out. I ain't speaking about that. No, no, no. If I speak about that, if I say anything about that, if I challenge my managers, if I challenge the trustees, now someone, I don't want it. These are the conversations I'm hearing. And I'm saying we need to have these difficult conversations, all of us. Everybody needs to be called to this conversation. Otherwise, we're not going to get the solutions we're looking for. And we all need to push for that conversation. Like you're push for that conversation, Anne Marie, we're pushing it. But there's a lot of people are not pushing it because they are frightened because how they're going to be demonized and compromised in their positions and in their roles, or downgraded or demotivated, depromoted, whatever the term is.
Yeah.
Those anxieties are being shared with me across the country. And I'm thinking, why are you sharing with me? Because they're not a speak it out. And I'm saying to people, no, you got to come out with that. Let's see the consequence you get from your organization, from your managers, from your teams. They are frightened to speak about ethnic minority issues. They're frightened to speak about funding disparities, commissioning disparities. They say, well, if you want your job, you better keep your mouth shut. Yeah. If you want to talk and that, you know what I mean? People are not going to talk, they're compromised, but we need to have the conversation because the people who need our services
Yeah,
are living with harm.
I think one of the big reasons why is that people are institutions, systems are so risk averse. They, like you said, they're much more comfortable with the status quo, despite the fact that it's failing dramatically and people are dying right, left, and centre. They'd rather have that than change and do something different because they're so risk averse. I think you touched on something earlier as well about, the flaw in the harm reduction theory is that, like when we meet people where they're at, that's great, but we shouldn't be leaving them there. And there's this terrible prejudice against pathways that promote, abstinence or that promote anything to do with anything spiritual. Like we are human beings, no one size fits all.
Mm.
And and we need to have that balance. So I think we've got into a situation now in the UK whereby, like, the harm reduction has become an ultimately a pessimistic philosophy, and it rests on the premise that, you know, human beings are being subordinated to biological determinism. We almost
Mm.
no room for agency or hope or grace, and that's just not true. Like you, I've seen many people recover who, numerous agencies had wrote off, and yet they are walking, talking, strong, full of life human beings who are helping other people to recover. So, despite harm reduction's influence over social policy for decades now, there seems to be no end in sight for that premise being challenged, I'm a firm believer that we should have both, we should have the whole spectrum on offer to people, but unfortunately we've just got this situation where the majority of our funding is going into these
Mm.
harm reduction interventions, which, in the most part prolong drug use,
Mm.
they maintain addiction, they're harm production.
And because we've had that, and it's easy to keep things going as they are, and not to bring any innovation, any new ideas. We do need a full spectrum, one size fits all. It's never worked. It's not going to work. But the harm reduction, it has its place, but it is only a place. But the journey continues.
Yeah,
Life is a journey.
yeah,
Treatment is a journey. Recovery is a journey. Harm reduction is just one station along that journey. And what can't get my mind around is why are people not people who on scripts, for example, who are within sort of harm reduction treatment at the moment, why are they not given other options, other aspirations? There are other ways. There is a life beyond. If there's no conversations, no considerations, people's minds are not going to open. Harm reduction, being on the script, this is it. This is life. There's nothing beyond this perception. But if we don't have conversations with service users and aspirations, whether they consider them or not, let's have the conversation. Let's put it on the table. Let's increase the options of well-being. Being on a script improves your well-being to a degree, but it's not the full well-being that you can have if you were considering other options, for example.
Yeah.
There's
And how
people.
long, but how long does it increase your well-being if you're then on that script for 30 years or 40 years, Sohan?
I can say I know people been on a script for 30 years, 25 years, 10 years. I was on the script for 6 years. And looking back, I'm thinking, how dare you keep me on this for this long when it's supposed to be a short-term intervention, supposed to get me through a crisis, and that's it. Not keep me on it. I'm coming off one and I'm being addicted to another, to a state medicine, a pharmaceutical product. I'm becoming addicted to that. It was harder for me to come off that than it was the other stuff, the other substances. So like I said, it has its place and that, but it's an intervention. It's a short period. It's a transition to help people to stabilize their lives a little bit, and then I can't get my head around, for someone to be on it unless they've got exceptional circumstances. And I know, and I'm very sympathetic. People have exceptional circumstances where they might need a life script or they need a long-term script, but not everybody. Because my thing is, if you've got more than 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, something's not right. Something the key worker is not doing, the organization is not doing. Why are you not having conversations? I mean, if you look at which parent would want their child, their sons and daughters, yeah, on a substance that's not really for human consumption, long term. Short term, you do what you got to do, right? Yeah, to filter out, ease the symptoms and that, and get to a better place and build that from there. But to the long term, I don't get it.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing people, Anne-Marie, I'm supporting people who are living with the consequences 30 years on, 20 years on. And their stories need to be heard as well. And it's about empowering them to speak up. But also I've seen people on long-term scripts and I look at them and I'm thinking, I don't even recognize you. Is this what this harm reduction script has done to you over the years? Saying, look at your brother, look at the state of you. I'm almost in tears. Is this a healthy intervention? It looks destroyed and disheveled, like a ghost. All of this, we need to talk about that. That's somebody's child. That's somebody's father, brother. Someone's made the decision along the way with them. They co-signed to keep him on a long-term script, not offering any other routes, any other interventions. At least consider them. At least put them on the table. Let the person decide. Let them have a reflection around them. If you give them nothing, all they got is you, the key worker, the prescriber, and the treatment. So that's all they got. Your harm reduction knowledge, which kind of here, we need to take it up here, up here. Give people the chances. Allow them to recover. Allow them to make choices rather than you state determined choices for them. And if they want to reduce and come off, encourage them, support them. I'm also hearing that that's not being encouraged.
No, it's not been.
Increase is encouraged. Oh, you need to go. Oh, you feel like using and you're using this medication or this substance here. Let's increase your script. You never hear me say let's decrease it. I've not heard that. The people that we support. What you got to remember, Anne-Marie, most of the people that end up at backing organization, they've been through that treatment system. They've been through that harm reduction years and years. They've had enough, and then they end up here. They want to get well. So their real solution kind of starts from here, really. A better life, a better life that's on offer. They see it around with their peers, people who are getting well, people who are on the street, homeless, broken, wounded. These people are walking well, doing well, living well, and they see that. They think, hold on a minute, there's something real change going on here. I want some of that. The hope, the aspiration. Do you get that treatment services? No. It's just surrounded by people using, dabbling, dealing. You walk around there. I don't hardly see anybody with good recovery, around them spaces. But around Leroy's, around, organizations like ours, and, you see people, living the life, you could say, the life that should be considered and talked about whilst they going through their harm reduction journeys.
Sorry. Ah,
What's happening, Anne-Marie?
oh, sorry. I had a call come through. Yeah, sorry. I thought we would be cut off. Listen, we've came to an hour there, Sohan. So is there anything else you'd like to say before we finish up?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, thank you, Anne-Marie, for this opportunity, and I'm excited about 21-year celebration next Tuesday. We've got another book coming out, A Rising Recovery, which kind of focuses on journeys of ethnic minority people living in Nottingham, their kind of journey of severe and multiple disadvantage, addiction, mental health, contact with the criminal justice system, homelessness, domestic violence, all of those different strands of sort of experience. So really looking forward to that. But what I do want to say to our listeners, to our friends, um, I'm only speaking the way I'm speaking, because I care, and I have been challenging, critical, and critiquing. It's not at anybody. It's not at any soul. It's at the systems, but also at those who are allowing those systems not to change. So my expressions are for you. And when I speak about the workers in this, the workforce within this field, some of the best people, some of the most phenomenal people on the planet, but there is a culture of apathy. There is a culture of kind of don't really care, game playing, and also stigmatizing the people you're supposed to be serving. It's not working.
Yeah.
And some of what I said, maybe I'm sharing to you, but most importantly, Anne-Marie, um, back in over the years, we have a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of passion, a community care and concern. We have so much knowledge, and we're putting some training packages together. We're doing consultancy across the country, and organisations are kind of calling upon us, say, look, we need to change our policies. We need to change the way we're working. We need to understand your communities better. Organisations are coming forward, which is really, really beautiful. So they are hearing what we're saying, and they are wanting to have that difficult conversation, and there's a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Training, consultancy, even supervision, clinical supervision, managerial supervision, culturally sensitive supervision. All of this, we feel that the only way we're going to survive is we got to sustain ourselves is by creating services and products, but which means we have to move away from direct delivery as well. While
Yeah.
we could be doing direct delivery engagement, in one-to-one, the group work, all that. But we have to build it. This is where we're at. And we shouldn't be here. There should be sort of money on the table for us to do the core work at least, while we help to educate, the sector, raise the cultural competence so they can engage better with communities and create a better experience for people of color, you could say, you know, um,
I hope that continues, Sohan, that consultancy work, that you're able to pass on that wealth of knowledge right across the UK. Like you said, it's desperately needed, and sometimes you can give a man a fish, you know,
mhm,
for a day,
yeah,
but if you give 'em, you're giving organisations a fishing net there.
mhm.
So, you teach them how to fish, and
Let's, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
let's teach them how to fish and get them all in the net.
Thank you so much. I'll
All
just
right,
end
Anne-Marie.
the recording there. Thank you so much.